afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Paige Castaneda, and today we will be discussing compensation challenges. We will define compensation and compensation philosophy. We will discuss internal and external competitiveness, extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. We will also discuss compensation packages for providers, incentive programs, and we will end with personal experiences with compensation challenges. Compensation is the pay an employee receives from a company for performing their job duties. And there are two kinds of compensation. There are direct and indirect. Direct are the salary, wages, and bonuses someone receives for the job duties they perform. And indirect is health insurance, a company car if that's provided, and PTO. Compensation philosophy is a company's official statement about an employee's compensation, and it is utilized to help retain, attract, and motivate employees. So let's break that down. Labor is the largest expense for any company, and companies need to decide how they're going to allocate their resources to support the pay structures they have in place. In addition, companies also need to decide how the pay structures are going to correlate with their compensation packages. So companies also need to align their compensation packages with their strategic goals. Compensation philosophy begins with determining your strategic goals, and your strategic goals should be part of your compensation package and your philosophy. In addition, that will also be input into your employee engagement. And if there's a mismatch between any one of these intertwined components, it will impact your ability to reach your goals. So healthcare organizations implement strategic compensation packages to embody their mission, their vision, and their strategic goals. Johns Hopkins is an example of this, where one of their strategic workforce goals is to hire the best employees of the world. And how they will do that is they are going to hire all their nurses at a higher average pay rate than any of the other nurses at the hospitals in that area. So that's a great example of utilizing your compensation package to achieve your strategic goals. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about internal competitiveness. So internal competition is the competitive pay and internal pay equity. And internal pay equity relates to equitable pay comparisons for similar jobs. So that means, is your most seasoned nurse receiving the highest pay versus your new nurse who is probably receiving lowest pay, or is the opposite in effect? And if that is the case, then you have an inequitable pay solution in your department. So internal competitiveness or unequal pay equity can create a negative impact on the culture and your ability to achieve your goals. External competitiveness, on the other hand, is the outward look to the market. It is the company's pay in relation to the market, which is determined by pay level and also the mix of pay forms. So an example of that is your base salary plus bonuses or stock options. And the goal of external competitiveness is to control your cost, yet at the same time attract and retain the most qualified employees. And there are three factors that impact external competitiveness. One is the labor market, so that is your unemployment rate. The other is your product market factors, which is how much in demand is the product. An example of that is when a new iPhone is released, that product demand is very high. And the third is the organizational factors, such as strategy and industry. And the industry example is that technology changes rapidly, and you have to keep up with those changes, and your strategic factors must also correlate with your compensation package and your external competitiveness to keep you in the game. Now we're going to discuss extrinsic rewards. So what is extrinsic rewards? It is the external rewards that can be financial or non-financial in nature. That is raises, bonuses, promotion, and recognition. Intrinsic rewards is establishing meaningful purpose. It's internal rewards. And those examples are achievement, job satisfaction, and enjoyment. And job satisfaction plays a huge role in employee engagement. And so if you have employees that are satisfied, they usually are more involved and feel organizational support. And that also ties back into that diagram I showed earlier, where if you have employee engagement and your compensation package are all intertwined correctly and aligned, it will help you achieve your strategic goals. So what is the value of these rewards? So the intrinsic rewards offer innovative creativity, and they also promote cognitive processes such as enjoyment, intention, and engagement. On the other hand, extrinsic rewards also promote practical creativity, but they also assist with accomplishing mundane tasks. So the sole use of extrinsic rewards, though, can hinder your creativity and your motivation. And Apple is a great example of this because they utilize both intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. Their extrinsic rewards are rewards with great pay and stock options, which attract highly talented people. And in addition, they offer intrinsic rewards with great job satisfaction for promoting challenging tasks to each employee that makes them satisfied with their job. The next topic is challenges of designing and implementing an incentive program. So the main focus when you develop one of these programs is to establish equitable compensation, which means fair, with value and meaning to the employees. So if you implement a program and the employees see no value in earning whatever the reward is, it is doomed for failure. In addition, this must also align and promote your mission and your strategic goals for your accomplishing the incentive that the employee must earn. Challenges of implementing an incentive program can be created, and as the statement says, rewards do not create a lasting commitment. They merely and temporarily change what we do. And sometimes incentive programs can promote the negative behaviors that we do not anticipate. An example of those are temporary compliance, reduced quality, productivity, and motivation. In addition, it can disrupt relationships because the individual might be looking out for their own personal incentive versus teamwork. And finally, it can reduce risk-taking, which translates to reduced creativity. So all of those examples can make it challenging to implement an incentive program. And when you're implementing incentive programs, sometimes having a short-term goal for the incentive program is a much better solution than utilizing as long-term goal, because that can manifest these behaviors that I stated. Another topic we'll be discussing today is practice settings that impact provider compensation packages. So providers, depending on where they practice and if they are owned or independent, can impact what kind of compensation they receive. So compensation packages for providers in rural settings actually earn more money than providers in urban cities. And I thought the exact opposite was going to be the case. But the higher cost in higher areas is directly transferred to the physicians, and they earn less compensation for their services. Therefore, rural providers are paid at a higher rate. In addition, rural communities have a higher rate of obesity, and that higher rate of obesity translates into higher pay for the providers, which makes sense because we know that obesity can sometimes cause people to utilize the healthcare system more than someone who is not obese. In addition, independent providers that are on their own and not part of a health system versus employed physicians usually make less money. And the reason for that is the administrative burden that is associated with the federal regulations for reporting, and the requirements of that is about 40% of their revenue. And 40% makes it very difficult for the independent providers to make as much money as employed providers. Also, independent providers have decreased capacity to leverage payers, and what that means is that the independent physicians are unable to negotiate with the insurance companies to obtain and secure higher rates of pay, such as the employed providers with health systems behind them that have greater negotiating power. The last thing we will be discussing today are experiences with compensation challenges. My personal experience with external competitiveness, where I had a position that did not have a job description or matching salary that attracted any talented employees. Therefore, I had to create a whole new job description and salary to ensure that I had and remain competitive in the market. The next thing that I'm experiencing is that our current unemployment rate is 2.7%, which means everyone is struggling to locate and hire talented people. With that, the people that are entering the workforce currently are entering usually at a higher rate than any employee that entered approximately 10 years ago, which can establish an internal pay inequity in certain areas. So that is something that I'm quite aware of and trying to ensure that that does not happen in my departments as well. And finally, an incentive plan was eliminated from one of my departments, which caused dramatic change in employee morale and engagement. And that can also impact, obviously, your strategic goals if your compensation package and your employee engagement are both not in line and your employees are feeling that. In addition, it also highlighted that the incentive plan that was in place was promoting the unwanted behaviors that I listed before. So my goal is to now refocus the department and try to establish intrinsic rewards that will be beneficial to the employees. Finally, see if anybody has any questions, and then I want to thank you for your time.